going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And you see who I'm with, my guy. The smoke is in the building. And if you don't know him, his name is Mr. I Want the Smoke, Nicholas Rosario. What up, Nick?
Hey, Sean, how we doing, man? It's fine Monday. June 12th now.
Oh, yeah.
2023. How are we all doing? Everybody good out there? You guys feeling okay? Because
Facebook land.
the truth is about to be told. Let's just say that. Sean, hit him with it. Tell him what we're doing. Tell him what we're doing.
The truth is going to be told. Hey, welcome back to any of you that came here last week for the inaugural debut episode of Truth Being Told, where we're kind of just opening up our heart, our soul, our mind, and giving you a little piece of what we got. We hope you cherish it. We hope you appreciate it. And this week, the truth is really going to get told this week. Ladies and gentlemen, this week, the episode is called The X Factor. And if you could see by the title, X is EX, as in those who we were once with. And yes, I am currently in a relationship. So, we'll see where the truth starts and stops. We'll see how far it goes. But Nicholas, you're here. Talk to me, man. We've all been down the road. We've all been with a young lady. We've done our dirt. They've maybe done some things. Talk to me about where you're at. Talk about your past experiences, some of the things you've been dealing with. You've dealt with.
Well, just to start off, obviously, Sean and I have talked about, men sharing things and relationships is always a big one in anyone's life, right? Whether it's friendships, relationships with your parents, but obviously as men, we are, Sean and I in particular are attracted to women, always have been. And so that's where our heart lies. And as such, we've both lived interesting lives as far as that goes. Sean being 40 this year, me being 50, we've had a few exes in our lives. And so we just thought maybe it would be a good thing to talk about what we've learned, what we've done, what we've seen, what we could do better, all that kind of stuff. So we decided to do this show about exes. So just for the record, I'll give you a quick rundown. As far as actual relationships, and to me, that's being with someone more than like 3 months, you know what I mean? Like having an actual relationship. So I have actually only had 4 in my life where I I considered serious relationships. And the thing is, I started pretty young. My first girlfriend I had at 15, right before my sophomore year of high school. Well, actually, it's funny because I met her real quick. I met her at the end of freshman year. She was introduced to me by a grammar school friend who she was going to high school with. Her name was Julie. I'll give you. I'll give you the first name. Her name was Julie. She went to Madonna High School. Yeah, Julie.
Hey, you're telling everything, man.
Well, I'm just saying. She's, I'll get to the story. Trust me, you'll hear everything. But Julie was going to the all-girls school, Madonna, and I was going to Gordon Tech, the all-boys school. So we were like a brother-sister school type deal. My friend Lisa introduced us. I had graduated grammar school with Lisa. She went to Madonna. And honestly, maybe for vain reasons, maybe for reasons I couldn't even explain to you today, when I first met Julie, I was not feeling it at all. She was probably about 4 inches taller than I was at least. I was a short guy, if you hadn't noticed. So in high school, you had to figure I was probably about 5'2", 5'3" at most, which I'm not much taller than that now, but that's beside the point. And Julie was a good 5'7", 5'8". So this was a girl who was at least, like I said, 4 inches, 5 inches taller than I was. Yeah. And I think for me, I was just like, I'm not interested. I mean, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Johnny said, did Julie have freckles?
Julie did not have freckles. Yeah. Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah.
But given, and you're a high school boy, you think, this girl's taller than me. That's not going to look right. Whatever the reason. Like I said, just wasn't interested at first. It was nice to meet you. But apparently, for whatever reason, which again, I could never explain, Julie was still interested. And she asked Lisa about me again after we met the first time. So obviously Julie knew that I was in theater. So she came to see the production of Music Man that I was in.
Okay.
And she didn't corner me, but like I wasn't expecting to see her. And sure enough, after the performance, she came up to me and I was like, oh, it's nice to see you. You know, I was trying to skate my way out of there somehow. Yeah, I was trying to skate my way out, but and it was like, so I agreed. There was an after party, a cast after party in their cafeteria. So I did agree to dance with her. I did one dance with her. And again, I think for me, I just wasn't feeling it. And, you're a 15-year-old boy, you don't know how to express yourself, or at least I didn't think I did quite accurately. And so I may have brushed her off a little bit. I won't lie. I could have been a little bit of a jerk about it. It's kind of like, I'm not. No, I'm just being honest. Then something interesting happened. In the sense of the school year was ending. Obviously, let's get to summer. I saw her again. I ran into her again just because it just happened that way. So that's when kind of was like, well, she's like, well, maybe could I have your phone number, call you sometime? And again, I'm still like, but again, obviously there was something because I gave her my number.
Right.
I did do that. And so over the summer, she did proceed to call me just about every other day. How you doing? What's going on? And we started talking. And even so, I'm like, I don't know.
She pursued you.
She did. This one was a case of I didn't do a lot of the work she did, like in 100%. When we finally, and at this point, nothing had happened. Like nothing was going on. But one day she's like, well, do you mind if I come over? I got volleyball practice. She was on the volleyball team. Because again, she was like 5'7", 5'8". She was a tall girl as a freshman. So I was like, yeah, I guess if you got some time. Like I wasn't expecting anything. She came over. My mom was at work. So I think my sister was home. She might have been home. My sister wasn't home, whatever it was. But she comes by. We were hanging out. And of course, being a horny teenage boy, at some point we kissed. All right. That was the start of the whole thing. So once that happened, it was like, oh, this isn't so bad, is it, Nick? So of course, fast forward, we started dating in August of 1988, which was just before the start of our sophomore year. Mm-hmm. We dated for the 2 years. Again, till the start of senior year is when we broke up. Again, I view things a little differently, I think, because we've talked, for those of you who don't know, I do talk to Julie every now and again on Facebook. Obviously, when Facebook was introduced, a lot of people got back in touch with each other. Julie was one of them. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, she, she broke up with me, just for the record. That's what happened. I actually feel like initially I was upset, but after really reflecting on it, she had every right to kind of tell me to go where to go. Again, she seems to remember it a little bit differently than I do, because she was like, well, no, you were a good boyfriend. And I'm thinking, I don't know that I really was, but thank you. Like, that's very sweet of you to say, because I actually thought you were very patient with me and you were a really good first girlfriend, like, in all honesty. So, Julie left me that, like I said, in September. But the crazy part is, obviously, getting back in touch with her years later through Facebook, she actually married the guy that she left me for and has a daughter. Yeah, they live in the northwest suburbs of Illinois. They've been married 20-something years, whatever it was. They're happy out there, and that's great. Like, I totally, like I said, we talk every now and again, not too often, but hi, hello, how have you been? Whatever. And it's very cordial. We had a conversation about our relationship and some of the things that happened. And I think that's the important thing to kind of take away from this. And this is why I wanted to mention this, is a lot of times with first boyfriend, girlfriends, you think, I'm in it for this or I'm in it for that. But I learned a very valuable lesson, even with that first relationship. Mm-hmm. And that is, you really have to be careful how you treat people, because I took Julie for granted. I really believe that I did, even as a 16, 17-year-old boy. Like, I was just like, well, she's not going anywhere. She pursued me. You know what I mean? She's not going anywhere. This is, blah, 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 blah. And sure enough, eventually she obviously had enough of me and went, see ya. So, yeah, it's always important to, how you treat people, how you relate to them. You have to be giving. You have to be able to, to do that and have conversation and talk. And I think towards the end of our relationship, a lot of that just wasn't happening. Like, it was just, like I said, I took her for granted. I figured, whatever. I didn't hear from her for a few days. I didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, nothing's going on, nothing's happening, but all the time she's talking to this guy, blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, she drops the hammer on me. So, yeah. So, again, it was an ugly breakup as far as for my end, because I caused a bit of a scene where she worked at a Jewel Osco. So, again, I don't need to get into that. Let's just say I caused a scene. And, again, I didn't take it very well, as I just stated. It didn't go very well for me. But that was my first girlfriend. Again, I did learn a lesson from that. And I try to carry that with me in future relationships, at least in that regard, about talking to someone, communicating, and figuring out what you need to do because I didn't quite, at that point, I was like, I don't want that to happen again. That sucked. So, that was my first experience. But how about you, Sean? I mean, your first girlfriend, what was that like for you?
Well, I mean, in what capacity? I mean, we're talking high school. I mean, that was
right. Well, yeah, exactly.
But there was nothing long term in high school, though. I didn't start. I've had 3 long term relationships, and obviously my current one is the longest. But the 2 previous ones to that, each were, I think one was about 2 years long, maybe 2.5 years, and then the one before that was year and a half, something like that. So, I didn't get into any serious relationships until I got into, the college and after, adult life and all that stuff. But as far as when I was younger, I mean, I didn't have the self-confidence to approach a lot of different people. I was in a weird mix, weird middle, being a young African-American in Northern Virginia, majority, white people in there. And, the family always telling you, go, you don't bring, if you can't use your comb, don't bring her home, that type of thing. And then, but only thing I have around me and the only ones that at the time were giving me any attention were the ones that didn't look like me. You know what I mean?
Yes, I got you.
The upbringing that I had was, if they have God in their heart and they're good people, you go in there and you give them a shot, and they're, if they're like, you have the qualities of your mother, all these things. So I'm looking for this, but I'm looking for it blind of color. And, so I had a number of situations, dates, relationships with, but nothing substantial. It's always a little high school stuff. Like, we'd see each other at school, hold hands, that type of jive. Nothing serious. Oh, look, talk your talk, sir. Nothing major. It just like I said, it wasn't till I got to college when I met my the first of the 3 long term, which was Morgan. And Morgan, I guess, was my situation like you had it. Morgan pursued me. At that time, I was at James Madison University. I was, living my life. It was a 60-40 ratio for male to female. You know what I mean? So I lived in an apartment complex. We had, females to the left of us, females above us, man. You know what I mean? It just, at that time, it wasn't particularly hard to do it. And at that time, so it was weird because it was kind of like one of those like Fantasy Island things. You know what I mean? Like it's always a party going on. It's always good females there and everything. And it was just always just, all right, we can go here. We can do this. But what I wanted and what I've always wanted is to just give me my one. Let's lock down. Let's focus. Let's move towards that direction. I've never been somebody that's really been about playing the field or getting in a relationship and just let me just play around, boom, 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 and then let me jump over here. I've always been one that says, let's go. Let's lock in and go, especially if I feel that way. But when I met her, Morgan, it just was it. She pursued me. She kept coming after me. So just like in your situation, it kind of felt like, I could do anything and get away with it. You know what I mean? I hate that. I hate that feeling. And in hindsight, I mean, exactly what you said. Like I was awful. Like some of the stuff that I did, and not like I wasn't cheating or I wasn't going out there and, just disrespecting her and talking. I was there for her, and I was. But what I wasn't is I wasn't emotionally available. we had a very strong physical attraction, and I just exploited that to the T.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily something I'm proud of, but at that time in college, sitting here, kind of in my parents' house, not in my parents' house, it's kind of like a little 1 foot out, 1 foot in freedom, the other foot still kind of trying to grow and find myself. And she unfortunately was a casualty of that period of my life, where, when she was, all that stuff was going on, and, I had a lot of growth and a lot of things that I was trying to deal with, my son being born and trying to go back and forth with his mother. And she just, at that time, was just a casualty of the situation. And one of the things that kills me that I did learn is that it's like you said, you have to understand, what you do has repercussions. The moves you make, the things that you say, the way that you act, it has repercussions. Even towards the very end, when we kind of broke it off and stopped, we would still hang out, and I still felt like it wasn't out of the question to try to push up on her, and try to go in for a kiss and do stuff. And it took one time where she and she's like, nah, we're not together. And in my mind at that time, it's like, well, why are we hanging out then? You know what I mean? It just wasn't. And I look back at it now like, dude, that really, that's how we are. But it was at that time. So that I think will equal to yours. I mean, it was probably 10 years later than when your stuff would have happened in your life. But it was, for me, it's crazy when you go back and look, because there was a lot of stuff, and we really had a strong connection, the chemistry, the physicality, how close we were that way. So it was really kind of difficult because I did lose a lot from it. Not saying everything was perfect in that whole relationship, but I did lose kind of a lot of stuff that I kind of just took for granted. And she's in the same situation. She's married. I think I talked to her sister. She had an older sister that went to school with us, and I talked to her older sister more, and I haven't talked to her in years. I know she's married and doing, hopefully living the best life, man.
For sure.
But look, you alluded to it earlier, man, and I think we need to. What have you learned, but not even what have you learned? Who has taught you the most, if you could pin it down to one person?
Well, I think who taught me the most was probably my girlfriend, Mary Lois, who would have been the third girlfriend I had. Mary was quiet. Yeah. Her name was Mary Lois Louisa Martin, and of course Sean calls her Mary Louisiana. So there you go. But no, Mary actually taught me a lot in the sense of, because Mary was kind of a different relationship altogether. I was going to church at the time, and Mary and I met while we were in church, but we were friends literally for about 2 years before I even thought to even try to pursue her in any kind of romantic way.
Yeah.
She had a roommate named Amy I had met first. I was friends with Amy, and her and Mary ended up moving in together. And so I would always hang with them. Like I would go to their house, do movie night, go on Thursdays, we would watch Grey's Anatomy together. Like literally, like I was always with them. It was always the three of us. But at some point, I was like, I developed something for Mary. I thought she was very intelligent, very smart young lady. She was a college graduate, going for her graduate degree. And so I mean, that coupled with, I thought she was attractive physically as well.
That helps.
Well, that's a lot of what and again, that's what I'm saying. Like when you've seen someone every, like almost, 2, 3, 4 days a week for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sit there and go, well, I think I feel something more for her. And the reason why I say I feel like I learned a lot about me is because it was different. It was just different with Mary. Like I had what I thought at the time was a little bit more respect in that regard. As I mentioned about Julie, like it was a lot of that first girlfriend, there's a lot of physical things happening, all that good stuff. But that wasn't happening with Mary. Mary was, just being honest, Mary was raised in the church, and she had one way of how you should do things. And of course, my dumb butt had another, but I was No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but
I've been there. I know what you're talking about.
Right. And I really liked her. And so I was like, man, maybe she's got the right idea and I need to fix what I'm doing in that regard. Right. Yeah. So that happened and we started dating probably, I think it was October of the 1 year, like 2007. And yeah, I mean, I was very respectful. Like we talked about a lot of different things. Like I tried to be, I tried to be everything I wasn't in the first two relationships I had. I tried to be, like I said, and I was going through some stuff myself. Obviously, I was looking for something. I think that's what led me to church in the first place. Like I really was looking for something. I thought, and I guess I started to think that Mary was probably, and to quote the phrase, truth be told, I thought Mary was my salvation. I thought Mary was going to be the one to help me realize a lot of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And to get me to that place I needed to be. Yeah. 100%. Because I think a lot of things because of her, I think was the reason that I actually started to take things a little bit more seriously. Like I actually had gotten my own apartment, which I kind of had like roommates and lived here and there, but I had actually gotten my own apartment. I was working at Wrigley and I got a second job just to kind of, get more money and save more money and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing is that things were going very well, I thought. And then, as a matter of fact, it was New Year's Eve going into 2008. We had a thing at church and then she drove me home. She drove and I didn't. And I don't know what came over me in the sense of like, I want to show her what she means to me. Like at this point, we had done nothing physical whatsoever. And we didn't do anything bad. But I was like, you know what? I think I want to kiss her. And so when we were saying goodnight, she would always turn her head and I'd kiss her on the cheek. So this time I just said to her, don't turn your head. And she went, what? And so before she could even get out the what,
surprise
I planted one on her. Yeah, I planted one on her. All right, there you go. Yeah, so that happened.
Well.
It went the opposite way. It went well. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. I wouldn't know what to expect. I was throwing a dart at a board and seeing if it stuck. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't want it. And again, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be graphic here at all. Mary and I never, got to that point. We never had sex or anything.
Oh.
But that kind of changed the relationship. You know what I mean? Like that. Oh. The minute you start to do that, it changed. Huh. And, it was unfortunate because I think, like I said, she had one idea of how things should go. And I respected and understood that. But I thought at the same time, again, here's me trying to fumble through all this and thinking I got the answers and she's helping me out. And I still have that old way of thinking. We're like, well, but, we are together and why shouldn't we, make out or whatever, like you still have that mindset of like, well, let's see where this goes and blah, blah, blah. And I think that caused an issue and
it does. It will. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's why I say I learned because obviously, and again, Mary broke up with me, probably, I think it was April or May of that 2008. And, I did take that very hard because again, I thought I was on the right track. I thought I was doing things more the right way. But I don't, again, I want to stress, and I truly want to stress this. Mary is a wonderful human being. She is I thought, for a long time that I could never, because again, we were friends first. So, remember that. I always felt like I screwed everything up. Yeah. And that Mary, for a long time, like Mary was the one that got away. As you always have that one in life where you say like, oh, she got away. I feel like I screwed up with Mary. And that's something I held on to for a very long time. And I don't know that she'll see this, but I think I don't know that I ever actually told her that I always felt bad. I mean, I apologize for a couple things because we've had conversations after that. Because like I said, we actually still went to church together for years after this happened. And it's like, that was difficult for me too, to see her every week And you know what I mean? It was just like, oh my God. Like, so, but I don't know that I ever really told her that I really just felt bad about the way things ended and kind of the way I didn't talk to her for about almost 3 months after that.
Yeah.
Because she said, can we still be friends? And I was like, I don't know that I can be.
Yeah, it's
and
hard.
So I didn't, no, and I didn't talk to her, like I said, for about 3 months after that. Even though I saw her in church, I wouldn't say anything. I didn't know what to say to her, for one. But at the same time, I think I was feeling guilt. I was feeling sad. I was feeling everything. And that's why I say one of the most important things I took away from that relationship, honestly, again, communication, man. Talking, being able to say the things that I was feeling and thinking instead of just reacting or trying to do something, thinking that, well, I'm going to get her to come away to my way, or you know what I mean? Think the way I'm thinking. Man, you got to talk. You got to really be able to communicate to whoever it is what you're thinking, what she's, and then listen to what she's thinking. Yeah. Because, it was something that I don't have many regrets in life. And I'm not saying it's like a huge regret, but I do wish that I had been able to at least handle that a little bit better in that regard. And if Mary and I had naturally broken up, we would have, or if we, you know what I mean? But like, I feel like I kind of screwed up there. And that is something that I carried with me for a very long time. And so again, I just, and again, I was a little insecure too, there were a lot of instances where like, well, are you okay? You look like you're upset about it. She's like, Nick, I'm not upset. I'm fine. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we're sitting there, we're talking, and like, she's quiet. So I'm like, why is she quiet? In my head, I started overthinking everything.
You still do that.
No, I know I'm a classic overthinker. That's what I'm saying. Man. Like I'd be like, are you okay? Is everything good? Like, it should be like, Nick, I'm fine.
We're good, buddy. Like, we're good.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like my insecurity really, I think, came through a lot, especially, and because again, I felt like, I'll be honest, I felt like she was above my station. Yeah. 100% with you. Yep. Right. And I feel like I thought I was lucky enough for her to even pay attention to me. And then she agreed to date me. Like, okay, now what do I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was expecting her to tell me to go somewhere. And when she did, I was like, oh, okay, now we're in this. Let's, you know what I mean? So it's a very, 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 very great lesson that I learned there. And something that that like, again, it was a very big lesson for me to learn. Something that I took with me for a very, very long time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Nick, we got a bunch of people watching us. We have about 5 people watching us right now. Shout out to y'all, Johnny Dean, Big Ben, Alex, Andrew, all of you guys in the comments. Johnny Dean says, I feel that I was married with kids far too early. My first son was born when I was 14. And Johnny, the name of this show is Truth Be Told. And basically we pick a topic and kind of dive into it, just open up. As you've seen, it's just we pour out, our hearts on this. Ben Cornett is in here. He said listening and communicating is vital in every relationship. And Johnny Dean said, I found my soulmate when I quit looking.
There you go. Good for you, Johnny. Good for you, brother. Yeah, 100%.
I can dig it. No, but I mean, to your point, man, I mean, and even to that of kind of fighting above your weight, if you will, like, definitely stepping up to the next tier as far as good. That's kind of where I was in that relationship coming off of Morgan when I went to Gretchen, got with Gretchen. First and foremost, the way it started was it was crazy. I mean, I'm very reserved unless I'm in a platform like this, unless I'm in a space where I'm with my guys, maybe a little liquid courage helps out. It definitely doesn't hurt. So, I ended up going out with a couple of my boys. We just went out to chill. One of my guys is, there was a girl that he was trying to link up with and yada, yada. So I was like, all right, man, I'm over here. We're just all going to chill. We were sitting at a table. Everybody was chilling. I really was not interested in anything. I was just there as a wingman to get a couple drinks, relax and chill, whatever. As the night went on, the girl that he was trying to talk to ended up going back and forth with him. You know, my guy is pretty forward, so he went up and, you know, he was pretty fresh with it. Come to find out, there was a girl that was also there. This place called Bangkok Blues, like a blues spot. It's pretty cool. It's no longer there, I believe. But there was a girl that was with her that was her roommate at the time, and that was Gretchen. That was, you know, the girl that I would date after that. And even, I mean, everything, even with that night, like I remember looking at her and everything. The way I played it was the way I was going. I was always played it. I was gonna stare, sit in the corner, be all real creeper with it. Hopefully that you read my mind and came over to me. Right. You know what I mean?
True.
And I'm sipping my brews. I'm sipping my brew. I'm just chilling, and I'm just like, man, forget this, man. She ain't even gonna come over here. I'm just good, man. Let's just get right. Let's do our thing, and we can roll out of here, man. I was good. So at one point, my man's, he was like, yo, he saw me eyeing her, and he was like, I see you trying to talk to her. I was like, okay. And I was like, man, nah, we're good. We're good. I'm just going to sit here and chill out, man. I'm not worried about it. So a little bit later, he was like, yo, man, come to the bar, man. Let's take a shot. So I get to the bar, and she was at the bar, and my man was there, and he was like, boom, I ordered you guys a shot. He said, my boy Sean, he's fresh on you, man. Take this shot and have a conversation. And I was like, and you know, it was a situation where I couldn't, you know, get out of it. I couldn't stop. Right. You know, I had to take the shot, and I had to go.
Sure.
The shot was a shot of Jameson. So it was rough. And at that time, I wasn't privy to the Jameson and the pickleback or anything. So I took it, and it was burning. Oh yeah, burning down 100%. The chest. But at that time, I'm trying to be big bad Sean. Like, I slam it down like, yeah, what's going on? How you feeling? Da, 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 da. You know, we're going back and forth, right? So we're just talking or whatever. And there was, like I said, it was a restaurant that had like a bar that had, you know, a little floor. They had acts, bands, and all that stuff. So they were playing, but the set was over. They were kind of at the end. Nobody was doing anything. Yeah. I had taken that shot. I was already drinking. I mean, the courage was through the roof. So your boy, and where we were, like the bar, we were at the end of the bar, and that like in the next room over was where the DJ and the mic and all that stuff. So there was this one dude that was getting up there, kind of playing around on the mic, whatever. So I just went in there and just started just flowing, just going at it and whatever. And she was saying, she was like, oh my goodness, when I saw you up there doing that, it took my breath away. I was like, oh, look at him. He just controlled the crowd. He can talk to me. He can do this. Wow, look at that. Yeah. Funny part about it in hindsight is at that point, obviously I was a little intoxicated. So I wasn't thinking about any of that. I didn't do that for her. I did that because the mic was there and I was sitting here like, oh, let me get up here. You know what I mean? I was just keeping it going. Long story short, we went home together, didn't do anything, ended up staying up late and just like kind of vibing, just chilling, talking for most of the night. Definitely, you know, chilled out a little bit, but nothing really popped off. But coming into that, when you start a situation on that kind of a level where you've been drinking, you kind of, you pushed away your fears, but not in a legitimate way. You push them away with alcohol and all that. So once you come down from that, and once you then try to talk to that person normally, it wasn't the same. I was stumbling and bumbling over my words. She was ahead of me. At that point, I was still living with my parents. She was out here, had a real grown-up's job. She was out here doing, just living in her own place, her own car. She was just a strong, powerful woman. She was doing her thing. And it was that sense of intimidation, man. It was that sense like, oh my goodness, man, how am I ever gonna, I always felt like I was kind of swinging above my weight with her. And even to the point, like 6 months down the line, like she lost her job, and she was from Southern Virginia. So that was about 2.5 hours, 3 hours from us. Okay. She lost her job, and she kind of got to a place where she was like, well, do you want to go? Do you want to stay? At this point, I'm infatuated. I'm just like, oh my God, I love you, all this stuff. And she was in here going back and forth, talking to her mom, like, do I even want to stay? Is he really even worth it? I didn't even understand any of this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is she stayed and we grew and we blossomed. But what started happening was once I found that out, I kind of clammed up on certain things. I did not want to disrupt the vibe. Don't kill my vibe. What does Kendrick Lamar say? I didn't want to disrupt the flow of what we had. So there was a lot of times where I would hold my tongue. Even in situations where I might have had a valid point or might have wanted to stick up for myself and say something, I wouldn't do it. And I just backed out. I'd be a turtle and just go into the shell and whatever you want to do. And I'm sorry and yada, yada, just because I didn't know at that point how to be assertive. And at the same time, I was just so conscious of her feelings and I always felt like, I'm lucky to be here. So anything that happens here, I'm just lucky to have. I'm so excited. Like I'm bringing around my family and like putting her like, oh my God, I just love this person. I'm just so into her and this and that. But I kind of lost who I was in the whole thing. Long story short, we've been in a relationship a couple years and me not saying anything, eventually kind of reared its ugly head. She would really want me to say stuff and I'd get to the point where I just wouldn't say anything, but then I would act on it. So I wouldn't say anything, but then I wouldn't show up the next day because I'd be going up doing something else. She's like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, well, sorry, this happened, so I had to be here, as opposed to going over there and being like, hey, I think I'm going to do this, because then it would be a whole lot of back and forth, and then I knew I would cave, so it'd be like, all right, well, so instead I just wouldn't even tell her. I'd go and then apologize after the fact.
Right, I got you.
A lot of stuff I didn't do right in that relationship. A lot of stuff, and we, things kind of fell apart. We didn't do things kind of the right way and how we were going to address certain situations. And I wasn't in the right mindset at that particular point. We split up and we tried a couple times to kind of get back together. One of the things she said to me though, when we split was, she said, Sean, you got to speak up for yourself. And it doesn't matter if you ruin a particular event or a particular situation, if what you're doing is something that's going to help and promote growth. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Wow. That's.
And it hit me because it's like, I was so mad at her internally because I was like, man, you're not giving me a chance. You're not, giving her all this hard time. But half the stuff she didn't know because I locked it in, and it was just like, I'm not even going to bring her into this. So she didn't know some of the stuff that was going on in my head and everything. She said, you got to open up. You got to be a man and open up and speak it, because in some of these situations, you don't get that second chance. And once things start going down a path, it's hard to bring it back and then, reset. With her, I mean, it's one of the things that I've thrived on, I think, and even a little bit to my detriment, a little bit too much, is speaking my mind and coming out and saying it. And Catherine will be the first to tell you, there are times when the whole thing is ruined and I got to step out and go sit in my car and hang out with you guys for an hour. Right here. I just revealed that, babe. So if you saw it, sorry about that. But that outlet is key. But also, you have to open up those lines of communication, even if that means the next day, the next couple days, the next 3 or 4 days are done. You have to open up those lines, because at the end of the day, if you don't, it's gonna, some way, shape, or form, it's gonna come out. Whether it comes out through you, or whether it comes out through somebody you talk to, whether it comes out through a coworker, or whether it just comes out in a way that you don't want it to. You gotta be able. You got to be able to open up, man.
100%. No, that's a valuable lesson that I've totally learned, is that, and I think that's kind of why we're here. Like, to be honest with you, it's like, you and I have talked about this a lot, about, being honest and open and trying to just be transparent in a lot of ways, like just in my daily life with everyone, like just being honest about how I'm feeling or what I'm doing and what's going on. Because again, Communication. I think the bottom line of what we're trying to get at here, everyone, is that really communication is key in everything you do. Ben made a comment about it, and I think that's really what it is you just have to be able to communicate how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and then you got to be able to listen to what the other person is saying to you and be able to kind of, to hone into what what their life is like, what they're doing, what they're thinking, and that takes a long time sometimes. Sometimes people pick up on it quick, sometimes people don't. And it takes a while. That's why being open and honest helps in that regard. And with communication, that helps to make that a little bit easier of a transition sometimes than just trying to guess, or they're guessing what you're thinking, you're guessing what they're thinking, and you're both guessing wrong because nobody's saying anything. And so you're just stuck there in that cycle of, well, we're going to do this again. We keep doing this. We keep doing this. We keep doing this. When it could have been probably prevented all along by just saying something or just opening up about that. So, yeah, I definitely lesson learned, my friend. Lesson learned. No doubt.
I see we got some more comments. Yeah, we got some comments. Johnny saying video therapy, this show could put so many counselors out of work. Hey, we're just speaking what we think, man.
That's all it is.
Scott said I was in a bad place and playing the Playboy. I met my wife walking in the parking lot, and I knew she was the one. Hey, I'm glad you found the one, my guy.
Good for you, Scott. Right, absolutely, 100%, man. Congrats.
Ben said, "Great stuff, gentlemen." Johnny said, "You shouldn't feel guilt, Sean, but going into a relationship, everything does have to be on the table. The biggest part of a good relationship is knowing each other. A relationship built without self-honesty is doomed to fail." Absolutely. And Johnny said,
"Wise words from an older gentleman." Right. Wise words from an older gentleman. Right, Johnny?
The elder statesman.
The elder statesman here. Right. Dropping the truth. Johnny Dean, my man. There you go. Yeah.
So 100%. with that being said, I think we should ask this, and I'll start. Do you have any apologies for anything in the past? We alluded to Morgan. Obviously, I told that story. I don't know if she'll ever see this or hear this, but I was in transition. I was mentally going through other stuff. That still does not warrant how I acted. And actually, there's another thing I'm going to bring up a little bit later that is a question that I think all of us men can agree plays a very vital factor. And I think you know what I'm talking about. But as far as with her, I do wish that things didn't kind of end as abruptly as they did after the aforementioned topic we're going to discuss. After I knew that was off the table, so was my patience, so was my my kindness, this and that. For as far as with Gretchen, the most recent one, honestly, I really look back at that relationship and I smile on it because I grew. I did things that I hadn't ever done. Taking road trips, long distances with one person, talking about a future, trying to, you talked about you getting a second job. I sat there and went from where I first started, which was the YMCA, to then becoming a teacher, to then going off and working with adults with mental disabilities. I moved up through that, but Gretchen was that motivation. She was the one who kind of forced me in a sense, because it was like, I'm not going to be with just somebody that's playing games. You got to be bigger and better. And it had the work ethic that I have right now is because of that kind of fear, but also that motivation. Like, I got to do this. I got to be a better person. And I want to apologize to her. It's just that I feel like in the commotion and the way that everything went about it, we were both new and fresh. We didn't really know how to handle the gravity of the situation we were in. Yeah. I felt like I just kind of brushed it and I was really cold with it. And I just, we kind of split and I was just like, I'm good. Yeah, there we go. I'm freeing myself up. And I didn't give, in my opinion, the necessary respect to the relationship and what it actually meant to me. Now, at the time, I was trying to separate myself because I do know that there was a love there that I can't, we talk, we still communicate and she's very close to me because there was a lot of first experiences. There were a lot of first just ideas and conversations and where we're going and this and that. And there was all these things that I had not experienced before. So I apologize for how it ended and how that just things just never synced up. A lot of that was me and how I carried myself in the relationship. And for that, I want to apologize. So that's for me. Sure. Nick, what do you think, man?
Well, again, as I mentioned, Julie and I had talked, later on, years later, obviously, after that, again, Facebook, the invention of Facebook, you catch up with people. Like I said, I don't remember exactly if I apologized for or what I apologized for, but like I said, I always felt like I was probably not as great a boyfriend as she remembers me being. And so I would definitely apologize for that. I mean, yes, I was a young man. I can make every excuse I want for myself. I didn't, blah, 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 blah. But, again, as you grow up and you realize these things, you're like, man, yeah, I could have probably handled that better. Yeah. It didn't go as well as I had hoped. And there was a reason for that. So, yeah. So, Julie, if you happen to see this, you have my sincerest apologies. With Georgia was my second girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And Georgia is someone I still talk to this very day. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, there was a few years after the breakup, well, probably about 5, well, about 6, 7 years in the period from whence I last really saw her to when we started talking again in the early 2000s. Because she was, and the relationship with us was definitely different as well, because I didn't meet her till December of my senior year. Like I met her, I had transferred schools after my sophomore year. I went to a public school for junior and senior year, and Georgia and I were in the school together. Obviously, I'd never met her. I'd never seen her before. And then one night, just December, the Christmas concert for our school, my friend Melissa, again, I had a friend introduce me to her because they were very good friends. And I met Georgia that night, and I was spun. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not going to exaggerate. I thought she was the most beautiful girl I had seen in the world at that point. Mm-hmm. Like it was like, it stopped right there. From the very next day. No, I'm not lying to you. The very next day, you talk about doggedly pursuing someone. Yeah. The very next day I said, Melissa, where have you been hiding your friend? I'm like, I want to get to know her. Like, give me the 411 because I'm going to. Yep. Yeah. And I told her, like, see, back then, it's funny because back then I actually had more confidence, way more confidence than I do now. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm a getter. Like, in my head, I was like, I'm a getter. Oh, yeah. And I had an elaborate plan, bro, and I was not stopping until that happened. And she'll tell you too, if you say to talk to her. I pursued that girl that second semester of school like nobody's business, bro. I found out where her locker was. I memorized her class schedule and would meet in the hallway just to see her. Like, I put on the full court press, man. I got her for Valentine's Day, I got roses put in her locker. Like, I did everything. And this girl was still like, well, that's nice, Nick. We can be friends. You know, and I'm like, friends? I've been there. I don't want to be friends. But like, and then so like school ended, and it was really cool because like at the end of the school year, we would meet every day in the auditorium at the end of school, talk for a little bit, and then I'd walk her home. I'd walk home together. So we started to really, but again, it was a lot of other things were at play. Again, I don't want to give away all, there's some things that just kind of prevented us from really being together. Like there was just other forces at work there. And so it was just like, so we hung out in the summer and it was the whole thing. And it was like, well, she's going away to college and I'm staying here. That long distance thing does, it's great. We had a nice summer. I'll miss you when you go, blah, 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 blah. So long story short, she goes away to college. I'm here. I decide I want to go visit her. So in October of that, I guess it was 91 then, I plan to visit. I tell her, hey, do you mind if I come visit? She's like, no, that'd be great. Come on, I'll show you the campus. Like it was all friendly. It really was. It was all friendly. I got to the
Says
campus.
she's just a friend.
Yeah.
She said
Yeah,
she's
no, exactly.
oh, baby,
Exactly. You got what I need. But there was no other guy, though. It was just me trying to pursue her. She just wanted to be my friend. I wanted more. So I go to visit her, and I think that's the day that everything changed. And again, I don't get the wrong idea. It wasn't about sex or anything like that. But she showed me, I met her. She met me at the bus station in DeKalb there. She went to Northern Illinois. Well, she met me at the bus station. We hugged. Nice, great to see you. Walked back towards campus where her dorm was, blah, blah, blah. And just, again, we caught up. Go ahead. You're smiling at me, bro. I know you're waiting for me to say.
Okay, do you think?
No, I'm just saying. Yes, we made out. It happened, right? Like we were happy to see each other. It led to some of that. Just saying. And I think that's kind of from that day on, it was a little different because not so much because, again, it still wasn't like, well, we're officially dating, but it's like, I like you. I'm pretty sure you like me, but we can call it whatever you want. Like, we don't have to make, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it was like, whatever the deal is, because I just want to be with you and I want to come see you. So for the next about year and a half, that's what Nick did. Every opportunity I got on a weekend, I would go up there and see her. And, we would hang out, do whatever, this and this and that, whatever. And it just became a thing where it's almost like we still wouldn't officially define what it was. It wasn't like, okay, you're my boyfriend, you're my girlfriend. But I went and saw her all the time. She let me come and see her all the time. And then it started to get, I think, a little much because I actually moved out there at some point in 93. I packed up.
Really?
Yes, I did. And for those of you who are going, well, did you move out there for her? Yes. Yes, I did. I was having, I was having a little trouble with the parents here. Like, my attitude was a little different. And, things just weren't working here at home. So Nick packed up his bag and moved to DeKalb. Part of it was to be closer to her. Mm-hmm. Part of it was to kind of get away from my parents, not going to lie.
DeKalb, where is it? Georgia?
It's about 60 miles west of Chicago.
So
it's a college. Northern Illinois. This is where my love of Northern Illinois University came into play, Sean. Yes. Yeah. Because I moved out there, so then I started going to the football game. I was the college age. I was the same age as everybody there, but I wasn't in school. I had a job at the Wendy's. I'd get off of work at 3:00, go home, shower, and hit the campus thinking I was the man on campus. I'd go like I was part of the group. I was the same age. Yeah, so I did a lot of things everybody else did, and again, she was there during the school year. Yeah. So I got to see her more, but there was a lot of things again. Georgia could be like a 2-hour show because there's so much that happens. So I'm going to try to condense. Yeah, Georgia on my mind. She's probably watching this because just for the sake of this discussion, Georgia was a big fan of the first show that Sean and I did that she actually sent me a message. Yep. So if she's watching this one, Georgia, you were there. Right. Thank you for watching for one. And you know what happened. So you know the story, right? We don't have to get into all that. But truth be told, again, that's the name of the game, right? George and I have talked probably a lot in terms of just, what we were, what we meant to each other at that point, that sort of thing. And I'm really grateful that her and I are actually really good friends to this day. Yeah. Regardless of anything else, we could still talk to each other. We both have a love for each other. We both definitely still, check up on the other one to make sure they're okay. Mm-hmm. We do that, like I said, fairly often. We text each other, message on Messenger, whatever it is, call each other, talk on the phone. We still do all that. So yeah, I'm very grateful that turned out that way. But again, you always have apologies. And I know that her and I had a conversation at one point, and I don't remember exactly, but if I didn't apologize, Georgia, again, our breakup, whatever it was, where we stopped talking, whatever that was, I probably could have handled that better as well. Because again, I was 21 years old, and my life was all over the place at that point. And I don't know that, again, I don't remember exactly what I said to you. But if you are watching, if you are listening, yeah, I mean, I do apologize for the way kind of we broke off. Because I mean, we broke off entirely. We didn't talk at all. Like I said, probably for a good 6-7 years. until around the time of our high school reunion, which again, that no need to get into all of that, but like that's kind of how we contacted each other again. And then over the years at different incarnations, and then now finally we've been in each other's lives probably now for about that's been a while. It's got to be at least probably 10 to 12 years. Well, even actually a little bit further than that. So maybe 15 that we've actually been back in each other's lives in some capacity. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you, Georgia, for giving of your time while you were in college, because I know I annoyed the hell out of you at times because I wouldn't go home. I didn't want to go home. Like, that's the thing, too. Like, when I would visit her in the beginning, like, I never wanted to leave. I wanted to stay there with her. Yeah, and I think that's really why I ended up moving out there, because I'm like, well, I want to be closer to her.
Yeah. And
then somehow I still managed to screw that up. So there you go. Like I said, perspective, ladies and gentlemen, perspective, right? But exactly. Again, I'm happy with where things are. We're good friends, and that makes me happy. So yeah, I got nothing but love for you, Georgia. I hope you're watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we still got people in the comments. Shout out to Alec, just started watching the show, Alex Schomburg. Johnny, who's been faithfully watching, and this is therapy for him. Johnny says, when I reconnected with my oldest sons, I wrote them a 45,000 word apology and gave them a lot of answers to things in their lives. Thankfully, they're all doing well. And I think that's a good thing, too, to make sure that we remember mistakes made in our youth may impact others involved more than we know. And a simple thing like reaching out and letting them know none of it was their fault. Even the things like ex-girlfriends can be impacted badly by our previous actions. So reach out and try to make sure the impact hasn't totally ruined some portion of their lives. Well said, Johnny. Well said. And
that's the thing too. I mean, sorry to cut you off, Sean, but yeah, I think Johnny made an important point there, because a lot of times you sometimes take that baggage from your last girlfriend into the next relationship, because you think, you might think, well, this is that. I'm going to do this differently, but how do I handle this? If she does this, what am I going to do here? And I think sometimes you take a lot of that baggage or a lot of the attitudes and thoughts you have into that next relationship. And then you find out that girl is totally different than the one before, and none of that works, and none of that is good, or none of that is, you know what I mean? So I think that's an important point to make there, Johnny. So thank you for that.
And Johnny said, yeah, I apologize to my kids for not being a father. I was too busy being a child myself.
Yeah.
Johnny said, yes, exactly. Nicholas Rosario. Scott said, if you're in a relationship, you need to take all of your ex-girlfriend's photos off your Facebook photos. Okay. I still have Facebook photos deep in the annals of me. So I don't necessarily.
That depends, I think, on a lot of different things. I know every person's different, and I get it. Again, and that's a conversation you have with if you're currently with someone, because you know what, they have a past too, and they may have pictures. It all depends on. Again, communication is the key.
Yeah.
Because again, Scott, I was like that. I'll be really honest with you. Like, just to tell you how, like I told you, my first girlfriend, the breakup was so bad, I literally gave her back everything she ever gave me. Mm-hmm. Literally, I put it in a box, and I went to her door and I gave it to her. Like, literally, like a sad little puppy, I dropped off this box. Like, yeah, we're done. I tried to play tough guy. I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want no memories. And now to this day, I wish I had some of that stuff back, because it meant something at the time. And now I'm like, I have nothing. I mean, I think there's like 2 or 3 pictures I have of Julie and I. But I'm just saying, again, it's not because I'm trying to get back with her. It's nothing like that. But it's just, those are memories you wish you had. She was my first girlfriend. You know what I mean? But myself, my own little stupidity and being a young man and thinking like, here's the box pack of stuff you gave me. I don't want it. And now I wish I had some of that stuff. So, that happens. But I get your point, Scott. I know, like I said, that's a communication thing between you and your current partner. Because again, everyone's got a past. Everyone's had exes. Everyone's had this and that. So, I mean, it all depends on how you guys handle it. How comfortable you guys are with stuff like that. So that's a communication issue. I think, personally, just my opinion, of course.
Scott said, you have to know the difference between love and lust. He said, Facebook has given me the opportunity to apologize to most of my girlfriends to get closure.
Oh, there you go.
Which is always good. Nathan Snell, what's going on, man? Glad you're here in the comments.
Good evening, Nathan.
Topic is
The topic is the X Factor, my friend. Talking relationships and ex-girlfriends.
Scott said my wife made me throw my girlfriend's photo catalog away. She had a photo catalog?
Oh. Wow, you had a catalog, Scott? Mercy.
Johnny said, Scott Thaler, that is a situational decisions. My wife and I are still friends with 3 of our exes. They would be very hurt if we took their photos down. Yeah, I understand that.
There you go. Yeah, for sure. Like I said, it's a personal choice and it's a communication thing.
Nathan Snell, do you have anything to add in on this topic, my friend? I see you in the comments for sure. Yeah, Johnny, but I like that. I like that you wrote that, Johnny. That was really nice. I'm glad you were able to open up like that. We both have situations like that, Johnny. So you know you always want to be able to reach out to them. Nate said, he said, I've never been in a relationship, but I've had several flings that didn't go anywhere and didn't do anything sexual. Hey, and honestly, it's not a lot of my best, sex has played a part. I mean, but a lot of my best relationships have been more of a mental connection, more of us being able to link up in other ways, shape, or form, meaning the communication, the dialogue, the chemistry, all those things. The physical, I mean, that'll be there in time, but it's the emotional side of it that I think is more key. But to that point, Nathan, one of the things that Johnny said, he didn't find his soulmate till he stopped looking.
Yeah.
Sometimes in time, it's just, you got a lot on your plate. So it's focus on your stuff and all that. And one of the things that a lot of times happens in the situations is that we try to lend ourselves to that person until we tend to forget who we are. We tend to kind of mold into what we think they want, as opposed to speaking our own mind. And, right here, I will say communication is the hardest part. I will say the communication part is the hardest. Completely agree at times, because especially when you start thinking about the repercussions of everything, sometimes you are maybe a little bit more picky in what you choose to say, because somewhere down the line, you don't know if that will come back and that will bite you, or if that will be used against you, so communication is absolutely key. All right, I think that is it. Yo, guys, we appreciate you tuning in and paying attention on this episode of Truth Be Told. We tried to dive into our exes the best we knew how, without being offensive, even threw in our apologies. Nathan said, I will always say that if there are red flags from the jump, don't proceed with that person. Okay. Okay.
Well, can I say something to that, Nate? And I don't mean to be disrespectful to Nate at all, but you're a young man, Nate. Let me know when you're 50 if you feel that way still, my brother, because I think we've all jumped over flags because we still thought there's a way we can make this work. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way. I appreciate the comment. But come on. I mean, red flags, or what is a red flag? I mean, you mean I like the way somebody eats? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things, so many idiosyncrasies that come into play. Because that's another key point, too, is if you know what you want in a relationship, there are things you will put up with and things you won't put up with. And to really go into a successful relationship, you should know what those are.
Right.
Like Sean said, don't lose yourself in what's going on. So if you know there's things you don't like, I mean, again, maybe that's what you're talking about, Nate, in terms of red flags. But if there's things you don't like, then address it. Because, again, that could just be something that they've done because that's the way their relationships, other relationships have gone. And nobody's brought it to their attention. That's, again, we beat this to death. But truth be told, communication is always key, my friend. Yeah. Open your mouth. Say what you're thinking. Say what you're feeling. Say what's on your mind. And then open your ears, listen to what they got to say. It helps.
Johnny said, sorry, red flags should never be ignored. You won't feel a red flag if it isn't a trouble sign. That's what Johnny said.
All right. There you go. Again, man, words of wisdom from
And
the elder statesman.
he said that's what I mean.
Okay.
Now Johnny also said a sexual bond is very essential for a strong relationship. If one or the other feels left out, it will affect the relationship in the long run. A balance has to be there in all relationships. At times, I agree. I don't necessarily agree 100% on all things. I think it does beg the question, what part does sex play? Because honestly, I know there have been certain, and we're going to get real graphic. There have been in certain situations that maybe the relationship has lasted a little bit longer. I mean, I'm only being realistic. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain situations that maybe they might have been all you had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't know what comes out of it. I mean, as far as back into apologies, Johnny was talking about, his past and his sons and things like that. My son is, he'll be 21 this year, and him and me and his mother, we weren't on the same page. Communication wasn't there. I felt like I needed to be better than what I was, and I was trying to again play above my weight and trying to fill all the holes and boxes that she needed to, and I still wasn't ready. But we wanted to get physical. We wanted to get it closer. And hindsight, I have a beautiful son, amazing, great young man. But that part was an overwhelming part in our relationship. The relationship after that, there was a very big part that was based upon the physical attraction, and it was huge, even to the point where there are times where if it was so heavy at one point and then in later situations it's not, as you start like you were in the car where it's kind of like, all right, we've been hanging out, we're cool, we're da and I know what it is from the past, I know what other situations I've been in, but now it's kind of like this not happening. So what's going on? Is it me? That's when that overthinking comes in. So what part does that play, do you think?
Sex? Well, things are about to get real because I'm about to admit something here that I wasn't sure we would get to, but you brought it up, so I'm going to be honest about it. I think a big reason why my last relationship did not go as well as I thought it was, and how it could have gone, was because of the sexual component to it. Mm-hmm. And what I mean to say by that, for those of you that know, I'm a large man. Okay. My last relationship was in 2019. And with a woman named Kelly. And there was a lot of things in this relationship that challenged me from the beginning in terms of us just trying to navigate. In the beginning, did we want to, because we said we were going to keep it playful because of the way we met and everything. We met at a karaoke night. We both enjoyed karaoke. We had a few drinks, blah, 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 blah. We talked till like 6 a.m. Hey, we should hang out again. This will be fun. So that's what we did. We hung out again. Hey, this was fun. We should hang out again. And it became a thing of that. We're like, I thought I was playing it cool because like she had talked about like, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be serious. Let's just, because she had 2 daughters. So I don't think she was really looking for something so serious. And I don't think I was secure enough, but I was like, well, I'll play along. Let me try this. Yeah, not a great idea for a guy who doesn't do that sort of thing, honestly. Like, I don't just, I'm not just a guy, like you said, Sean, I wasn't a guy who played around or tried to juggle 2 women or 3 women at a time or nothing like that. And so I think, especially in the beginning, I tried so hard to kind of impress her and to kind of get her to just be like, nah, you just want to be with me. No, forget anything else. Mm-hmm. Let's get serious. Like, let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. But to get to the sexual component of the whole thing, as I was mentioning, I'm a very large man. And unfortunately, something developed. And again, I don't need to get, you guys can probably read between the lines in some sense. So I don't think I need to get too graphic with it. But we tried on several different occasions and it was very difficult. Just the mechanics of it, a lot of the things, I'm a big guy. She was a little chunkier for a girl. So it made it more difficult for me. And that's like, there was a lot of just things that kind of didn't work right.
Mm-hmm.
And we gave it a serious shot. There was a few times where, I mean, I don't know. I guess I can admit this, I suppose. Like I said, I'm trying to just give you an idea. I'm not trying to, this is not to make me look better or but whatever. But at one point, one night I literally broke down crying because I was just so frustrated with the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't just that I broke down in front of her. And I don't know if that's ever happened to someone, but I couldn't have felt more humiliated.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have felt like more, like I was expecting her to just be like, I'm out the door. Because this was probably about 4 or 5 months into what we were doing. And I just thought, this is done. But for whatever reason, it wasn't. Like, she stayed around. We talked about things and tried to continue on in that sense. And we did. And that's the crazy part. Like, I eventually met her children. I met her 2 daughters, which that was a first for me. I'd never dated a woman who had kids before. And so I thought, well, man, like, she's kind of upping the stakes on me. Like, because I told her, I said, I don't need to meet your kids right away. We don't need to do that. It's okay. She's like, well, no, I'd like you to meet them. I trust you. Like, and that was the thing too. Like, I feel like everything was going well in that regard. The only problem was the sex part. Like, everything else seemed great. She trusted me enough to let me meet her daughters. I would go over there. We'd hang out, play with the kids, do whatever, again, for a long time, it went very well.
Yeah.
But the frustration always came when it came to that part. And I think that eventually played a huge part in the breakup. Frustration on my part, I think some frustration on her part. And so, our overall time that we kind of spent together was just about almost a year. I kind of a crazy thing, literally broke up like the day before Christmas Eve.
Wow.
Which was kind of an interesting thing, is obviously I had already bought presents for like her daughters, her mother.
Yes,
and just the situation was a crazy one. Again, that could be a whole 2-hour show on its own about everything that happened there. But, long story short, we kind of, I'm like, hey, look, I got these gifts for your kids. I'd like to give them to them. Are you okay with that? We talked, she had gotten something for me. Like I said, that was a difficult breakup only because, again, frustration on my part, my insecurities. I wasn't enough for her. In the end, I felt like I wasn't enough for her. I couldn't do something that should have been easy for me to do for her. And that, what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's what it felt like. And that was definitely a very humbling feeling, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And definitely something that and the crazy part was too, is again, right at the end of 2019, basically, and then what happens in March of 2020, COVID.
Right.
So we had basically, one of the last things her and I did together, because I had told her youngest daughter I would go to her birthday party, which was at the end of January. And again, obviously we were broken up by then, but I talked to her about it, and she was like, well, if you want to come, you can. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I promised your daughter I would like to keep that commitment. Not, because kids don't always get what's going on.
Right.
I mean, obviously by that time they probably figured I wasn't coming around much anymore. They hadn't seen me in probably almost a month. One day we're setting up a Christmas tree. The next day Nick's not there. Right. So it was kind of a crazy thing. But I went to the party, and that was probably the last time, like, at that point we had seen each other. And that was a tough time because then COVID hit, like I said, and we're at home and all this stuff. And that was a very humbling experience. And again, I'm not perfect by any means. And I don't, I'm not trying to say I was perfect in that relationship at all. But in terms of what happened and what I think I learned from that situation, is that I have a lot of things in myself. My own insecurities get the best of me a lot of the time.
Yep.
And, that is something that has haunted me for a lot of my adult life. And I think that to finally deal with that, again, as I mentioned to some people, and this, again, please, this is not for a pat on the back. I'm not doing this to get you guys to go, oh, that's a great job, Nick. But I took a long, hard look at myself within the last year. Again, I was let go from a job last July that I'd had for 6 years, but I still had Wrigley. And it made me take just a long look at a lot of things. And one of them was my weight, because the weight was, to me, was a source of a lot of my insecurity and sometimes got the best of me. And so, I'm working on my weight now. I'm in a program to try to have weight loss surgery in October, because I think that'll improve a lot of aspects of what, I'm doing. And I have, lost 50 pounds since November. But it'll help me, I think, in a lot of ways with my things, because again, I haven't had a relationship since then, and I'm not actively pursuing one, to be 100% with you, because I still feel I'm dealing with a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? I still have a lot of feelings about a lot of that, that I've tried to work through. And, obviously Kelly and I are not close in that sense, but every once in a while we'll check in and say, hey, how are you doing? How's it going? That sort of thing. Nothing really major. It's not, the conversations are not long by any means, but every now and again, hey, how you doing? How's it going? How you feeling? That sort of thing. So yeah, it's been a tough road in that regard, from that, from going from that, the COVID thing, and then going back to work. And then, so yeah, but all that to say that, yeah, sex, obviously it does play a huge part, whether you're having it or not, to be honest with you. Like it can totally, I don't think people really think about it all the time, because like sex is one of those things that, is there. Like it's like the elephant in the room. It's there, blah, blah, whatever. It's this, it's that, however you feel about it. But it can be a very important component to your relationship. And again, communication in that regard is important.
Yeah.
And again, I can't stress that enough, that, Johnny Dean said it too. Again, Johnny was talking in his comments about that. It's just the way it is. Man, woman, whether it's man, woman, man, man, woman, woman, sex plays a part in every relationship. It's there. Yeah. You talk about it at some point, right? Like, and again, in the beginning of our relationship, or Kelly and I, hanging out, I dreaded that conversation because I knew it was coming. And sure enough, when we had the talk, maybe about a month in, and I was like, well, yeah, I figured this was coming, it had been a while for me, and I'm like, stammering over my words, like trying to, because I know that's, that was something that we talked about. And obviously, again, when you're with someone, that conversation is bound to come up eventually. And yeah, so that was a very tough thing to deal with personally. It was a very tough thing to even talk about. Again, I'm talking about it here, but that was 4 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't really talked to too many people about that particular aspect of the relationship. Like it bothered me for a very long time. I'm not going to lie. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things, man. And I think it's, sex definitely plays a part, good or bad, in any relationship. That's 100% true.
Oh yeah. Johnny said, we live in a sexually repressed culture that from jump makes understanding your partner's true sex drives a bit of a barrier in communication. That is why sex is the number one reason for breakups. That sex and finances. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Nathan's on here, said, I met a beautiful woman. What do you say? Met a beautiful woman on PlayStation, lives in Maryland. Didn't know she was a mom until we started talking, but then I didn't know she was married, but there are some issues with the marriage. Never met her, but it felt like cheating, and I felt like she used me as an emotional void, but at the time progressed. It became thank you, but I'm good. And I think we all kind of agree with you on this. The biggest fear is rejection. It's
100%. Yeah. Nobody likes to be rejected. Let's be honest. Whatever the situation is, rejection is just a whole. People handle it different ways, but yeah, nobody really wants to be rejected deep down. You know what I mean?
And he said that's another insecurity of mine as well. Wait, I need to get back on track. And let's see on that. He said, I've also noticed my experience in trying to date. Some women want someone that's experienced. True. And some women want the opposite of that. They don't, they want you to be the one that they've, because a lot of them don't want to know that you've been with other people, because then that's what they focus on. Who else you have been with.
You been with? Yeah. again, that's where the communication comes in, my friend.
Johnny said balance and communication. Gretchen picked up. What's going on, Gretch? How you doing? She said, "What a beautiful testimony." Just caught the tail end. But a beautiful and inspiring truth. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. Nicholas, Johnny said, "You do whatever you need to feel good about yourself, but don't for a minute think you have no value." Let me say, Johnny. But if you can't really like yourself, others will sense that. That is true.
Well, no, I get that, Johnny. Believe me, like I said, I've gone through the whirlwind, and I appreciate the comment. I do, because it has been, it's one of those things. But you do go through, and sometimes you do have to take a look at yourself, and how can I make this situation better for the next time? Like, what can I do? I mean, yes, obviously, there's a lot that goes with that, no doubt. But I did have to look inward for a lot of things, like, what am I doing? What am I doing to make? Because here's the thing, too. I am 50 years old now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, personally, I still have a lot to give to someone. But if I'm never going to be attractive to somebody else, if that's, if I can't find a woman who would even sit down with me and, you know what I'm saying, and want to conversate and want to talk, like, I got to find ways to do, like you said, to make me, I got to be me, of course. And again, I'm an outgoing guy. You guys know me on here. Like Sean will tell you, I'm like this on here, and I'm like this in person as well. Like I like to talk to people. I like to hang out. I like to do things. I like to talk. That I do. That's not a lie. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, shut up, Sean. Shut up. Yeah, no, I know. Exactly. I do like that. Yeah, I do like that. But I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. It's like so I've had to kind of turn that inward a little bit and think about, like, what, you say this is what you want, this, and this, but what are you doing to make sure that you can get this, and this? You know what I'm saying? So I've had to do all of that inner soul searching, and that's why I want to do this. Like that, when Sean brought this up about, truth be told, and let's just be honest about, I was all in from the jump, because, and not so much because, it's just another show idea, let's just throw something out there. But I really was hoping that from doing this, and, again, it could be a form of therapy for anyone on here, for me, for Sean, for anybody listening, because, again, you never know what somebody else is going through. Yep. You could be going through the same thing. Somebody could help because, hey, man, that guy's struggling with the same thing I am. Maybe, talk to him and we can work, whatever it is. And I think that's why this was important for me, I think, to do this, just to get that out there, like get this off my chest. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you say something and release it, it goes. Mm-hmm. It no longer stays with you. Yep. And I and I'm hoping to accomplish a little bit of that with this. So again, I appreciate comments, that sort of thing. And if I am talking too much, just tell me to shut up. No problem. It's not a big, I like to tell my stories, but at the same time, hey, I can be quiet and listen as well. So
Scott said, Nick, have you gone to endocrinologist?
I've talked to a lot. Yeah. I mean, I've had upper GI done. I've had he's talking about for the male thing.
Yeah.
Well,
he said they have medicine that can aid in your journey of weight loss. Also, when you're worried about weight and how others see it, when you worry about it, it makes you eat more because you're thinking about it. I think that's what he's saying.
I know I'm an emotional eater. That I'm very aware of, and that's part of what I've been trying to curb. When talking with the surgical team and the dietitian and that sort of thing, like, and a couple of different people who I have talked to, like, you get to understand a little bit. I mean, again, it's no secret why I'm big, guys. I know why I am. I know what my habits have been. I know what I've done in my life. I know where I've been. I know a lot of the foods I ate were not good for a lot of years. So again, I'm dealing with it because a lot of it is my doing. I'm not. I know that, and so I'm just trying to correct that stuff now. That's the biggest thing, is trying to learn how to eat better, try to do more for myself, get more exercise in, whether that's just walking, just being more active at work too. Like instead of sitting in my chair, supervising, I'll get up and help with this or that, or get up and take a walk. Yeah. Just to be more active and just to get myself going, man. But I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much, seriously, for commenting and for listening. I know Sean and I both appreciated. This was a show I had felt was going to go a little long, just because of the subject matter and what we were talking about. So I could see the clock up there. We've been at this for almost an hour and a half, but thank you guys for sticking with us. I appreciate the comments. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thank you.
Johnny Dean said, keep talking, bro.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
Yeah, Johnny said, he also said rejection is a part of the game for everyone. I've been rejected by a dozen more. I completely understand. Hey, Cat's in here. Said, hope we're not talking about me. She said, I thought this was a football show. Yeah. Scott said, endocrinologist deals with diabetes, not ED. The drugs we take for diabetes make us lose weight and decrease our appetite. Okay.
No, I appreciate that, but just for the record, I'm not diabetic. I have been tested many times. But thank you, Scott.
Which is a blessing in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, believe me, I'm very grateful that I'm not. Trust me. I know diabetics and their routine is not fun. So I've been very lucky and fortunate in that regard. I do agree with that.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. We've had a number of people watching. We appreciate y'all, Johnny, Scott, Ben, Alex, Andrew, Kat jumped in here. My ex, one of the people I was talking about, Gretchen, hopped in here. Glad you can listen. Hope you enjoyed what we were talking about. Scott said they deal in weight loss too. Yeah, we know.
We got together.
So yeah, but this was a good one. We definitely knew it was going to go a little long, and we were able to get some of those things off. Join us again when we come back and hit more of these type of topics. Next week we're going to be the topic. I'm going to put it out there now. Is we're not getting any younger. Truth be told, we are not getting any younger.
Not getting any younger.
Yeah, and that will deal with not only us, but also our loved ones, our family members, our friends, those close to those around us that, and again, these are not easy topics, guys. These are not, stuff that we're just trying to gloss over here. We genuinely want to kind of open up and I honestly want to open up the floodgates. Let's get the communication going so we know where everybody stands, and we can kind of help people, as opposed to sitting back and being like, oh, I don't know where your head's at, I don't know what you're thinking. I honestly think this form of communication, opening up and seeing Nick and I open up, I think that helps other people to open up, speak their mind. I mean, hopefully speak your truth, because I really feel like, especially in our society, we have to. There's too much of this back and forth, and nobody's listening to anybody. You got to listen. Right. Before there's Let's Talk Football, there's Let's Talk. So, guys, let's keep this conversation going. Let's see. Johnny Dean said, "Great show." Mrs. Hughes watching. You sound great. Johnny Dean, nope, you are not getting any younger. That's for sure. You guys did a great job. Wish you the best. Wish the best for both of you. Scott
thank you, Gretchen.
Scott said, God be with you, Nick. You got this, man.
Thank you.
Johnny, I can write a book on aging. Scott said no. Yeah.
There you go.
So stay tuned next Monday. Most likely this same time. We will be talking. We're not getting any younger. Truth be told.
Truth be told.
We'll see where it all goes out. That was a good episode. Thanks, Nathan. Thank you, Nathan, also for stopping by. And Anthony hopped on and before he went got his food. Stay tuned for us next week. Definitely, if you want to jump in on that conversation, definitely let us know. We're really trying to open up and we enjoy the humor, we enjoy joking and everything, but we really want to open up and have this conversation just to kind of let everybody kind of spill it out. Maybe this might be the only opportunity you get to speak your piece. So we want to kind of open that door. So
for sure.
Yeah, buddy. For your boy Sean Spencer, that's my guy, Nicholas Cesario.
Hey, thank you for watching. We seriously appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, catch us next week. We'll be back.
We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, people. See you next time. Stay tuned. After we get off here, I believe our guy Ben Cornett will be doing his show Face the Heels, talking about tonight's WWE Raw and all the other things, AEW, wrestlers, all that stuff. We will definitely be in the comments. Hey, stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good one. Good night.